YouTube, yub nub. Here we are with the pop culture update. It's been a while, and I don't know why, because I've been up to lots of stuff, but maybe it's just not that many completions lately, but I have been a busy boy, so let's get right into it. I got six things to go over today. This first one here is a double feature. It is the last of the Marvel Knights animated graphic novel movie sort of things that I had picked up at Dollarama over the last couple years. This one is a double feature. It revolves around the X-Men. The first movie is called Torn. The second one is called Unstoppable, and they go right back to back. They follow the same story sort of thing. So in the first one, Torn, I don't know what happened beforehand, but it revolves around some place named Genosha and some sort of incident that happened there. And I've heard of that before, but I don't know anything really about it. And so the X-Men are in a bit of disarray. The recruits are all worked up because one of their own members was found dead in their mansion, in the X-Mansion. So they're all shook up about that. So Wolverine tries to distract them by doing extra training and going at them pretty hard. Kitty Pryde is spending all of her time with Colossus and having nightmares about the death of her father. And during this time, she begins to be able to phase shift and stuff like that. And as for Scott Summers, Cyclops, he is being kind of tormented by Emma Frost, who is, advancing on him sexually, relationship-wise, that sort of thing. And all the while kind of reminding him of his ex-lover Jean Grey, and he's really having a hard time with it. So as this is all happening, two other parties are kind of monitoring this situation. One of them is this Hellfire Club or something like that, who's led by this strange woman, and they're kind of working with Emma Frost in some way. I don't know why. It's all very strange. The movie's a little bit weird, and a lot of the problems she's causing is coming from this outside influence. And then the other party involved is Special Agent Brand, who is she runs an offshoot of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Sword, and she is at odds with Maria Hill in the absence of Nick Fury about getting involved with the X-Men and how they should approach that thing. So Agent Brand says, I'm going to do whatever I want, sort of thing. And so it all the storyline kind of culminates when all three parties kind of come together at the X-Mansion, and this woman that works for the Hellfire Club, or whatever it's called, I'm not sure if that's quite right, but she starts playing all these tricks on people, and Wolverine is basically turned into a little boy again, a scared little boy. Beast loses his human side and becomes just a ferocious animal, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it just results in this pandemonium around the X-Mansion as this kind of three-headed monster all comes together and kind of works the situation out. So, and then Unstoppable, which it leads right into, there's been a bit of time, but not much that's lapsed in between the movies, and Special Agent Brand is now leading the X-Men on a mission to a place called the Break World. Now, in Torn, we learn that Colossus has been prophesied to destroy the Break World, and so the ruler of Break World, Kroon, has become aware of this as well, and he launches a force to intercept the X-Men and dispatch them and prevent Colossus from ever setting foot on the Break World, because they believe he is going to destroy it. So they all kind of crash land on the Break World and get split up. So on the mission we have Brand, Wolverine, Beast, a young recruit named Armor, and then Cyclops, Emma Frost, and then of course Kitty Pryde and Colossus. So they all kind of crash land, get separated, and then kind of scramble to stay alive as the forces on the Break World are kind of after them. Now they meet up with this woman named Agani or something like that, and she kind of runs this sect of people on Break World who don't necessarily believe in the prophecy, and so they give them shelter and kind of help them figure out a way to try and you know, sort this whole situation out and everything. So in the end, though, Kroon launches this massive bullet towards Earth that's going to destroy the Earth if it ever reaches it. And so back on Earth, Earth's mightiest heroes are scrambled. So you get Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, I think, is in there. And a bunch of them kind of assemble to figure out how the hell are we going to stop this massive bullet. But it's going to come down to one of the X-Men who's already on the break world to kind of almost... We don't see exactly how it all ends up, but apparently it looks like she must sacrifice herself to make sure this bullet doesn't pulverize the Earth and kill all of humanity, basically. So very interesting storylines. I liked Unstoppable better than Torn, the second one. The second one just a lot more action and a lot more clarity in the story, whereas the first one, Torn, there was a lot of stuff. I'd almost like to rewatch it in a way just to see if I missed some stuff, because I wasn't quite sure on all of the details behind that story. But either way, good storyline. I mean, the X-Men are amazing, and they always have good stories and good action and stuff. So it was a probably arguably my favorite two movies of that whole Marvel Knights animated series. So next up, I finally got around to reading this. It's been way overdue. I had a stack of books literally beside my bed before COVID that was like 3 feet high, and it was 2 stacks of books. And I got about 3 left now. So I have been super busy reading books. But this one was at the bottom of it, and it is the novelization of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Some people consider reading the book after you see the movie of a movie like this kind of a waste, but I kind of began it as a tradition back when the prequel movies were released in '97 or whenever the Phantom Menace came out, because back then they used to release the book a little bit before the movie, so not long before the movie, but enough that you could read it before you went to watch the movie. So I was so hot on seeing what happens that I would always go out and get that book and read it and then be prepared for the movie knowing what's going to happen, sort of thing. But over time they kind of stopped doing that, and the books weren't released until after the movies because, you know, now there's so much secrecy and all that bullshit, right? So but I still like to read them, partly because I started that tradition back during the prequels, but also because, like you'll see here, it says expanded edition, right? So you get some insights into things in the movie that, you know, may not necessarily be explained all that well in the movie because you don't know somebody's motivations behind something or why they did something, right? Like, so these kind of books help to flesh out some of the characters' choices and motivations and stuff like that. So that's the other reason that I really like to read them, even though the bulk of the story I know because of the movie, right? So, but just to briefly go over it, Last Jedi, so it picks up after The Force Awakens, just after the Resistance has destroyed Starkiller Base. So in doing that, the Resistance has let themselves be uncovered. Now the First Order knows where they are on the planet Dakar. So, you know, Leia's on Dakar organizing this escape from the planet before the First Order can show up and obliterate the Resistance. And in the meantime, at the same time, Rey has just recently landed on Achto, where Luke has been in seclusion all those years, and is trying to get him to teach her how to become a Jedi. It doesn't go well. He's sullen and resistant because of his failure with Ben Solo, who turned into Kylo Ren and went to the dark side, and we obviously know he is one of the First Order's biggest lackeys and killed his own father and all that. So Rey kind of wears him down over time and eventually gets him to start teaching her the ways of the Jedi and the Force, which opens her eyes to so many things. And in the meantime, back with the Resistance, they've successfully fled from Dakar, but the First Order and then escaped into hyperspace. But somehow, impossibly, the First Order has tracked them through hyperspace, which has never been able to be done. So then they're like, oh crap, we're low on fuel. we'll just make another jump. But then they're like, well, they're just going to follow us through hyperspace again. So we're going to burn all that fuel and we're going to be dead in the air, right? So then they decide to go on this kind of just slow burn in this kind of sublight race as the fleet flies and the First Order chases, and one by one the ships kind of drop off and get shot down as they run out of fuel, and it's really only a matter of time before they are caught and destroyed. So to kind of circumnavigate this, Finn, who meets an engineer named Rose somewhat dubiously, figure out that the device used to track the Resistance through hyperspace must be on the lead Star Destroyer, and Finn, being a former First Order trooper, knows where it should be and all that stuff, and but they need some sort of a expert slicer to get them into it and stuff like that. So they call Maz Kanata, who's in the middle of some sort of battle on some other planet, and she says, go to Canto Bight and look for this master slicer. He'll be wearing this kind of weird flower on his lapel or something like that. So they go to Canto Bight, which is this like rich casino world, and eventually get arrested for kind of disturbing things, and but in jail meet not the slicer they were after, but somebody who says he can do the job, and his name is DJ. So they then go back to the fleet and board the Star Destroyer and eventually get caught. So and they're about to be executed by Captain Phasma, who's gonna have some sweet revenge on the traitor Finn. And while all this is going on, though, Rey has returned from Achto. Or no, sorry, not yet. She hasn't returned yet. But on the Resistance's capital ship, the Raddus, Leia, in one of the battles, gets sucked out of viewport into space and then returns by the Force, but she's all in a coma afterwards. So command of the fleet passes to Admiral Holdo, who Poe is kind of cross with because she's not telling anybody what the plan is, and they just seem like they're running away for no reason with no plan, and they're just going to get shot down eventually. So he wants to know what's going on. She's not being very forthcoming, so he stages this kind of coup to take over, but is kind of, it's all shot to hell when Leia wakes up and is like, Poe, 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 and stuns him, and then they take back over. And then so the plan was to take the transports they have remaining in the Raddus and everybody escape down to a planet called Crate, where they know there's a base there with large steel blast doors where they can hole up, stay safe for a while, and wait for help to arrive if they can get a distress call out. So they do that, and but the First Order finally notices the transports going down to Crate and start picking them off. So Holdo, who's the only person left aboard the Raddus, makes the ultimate sacrifice by putting the Raddus into hyperspace right through the First Order fleet. So it takes out a huge number of Star Destroyers and stops the assault on the Resistance transports. And also during this fracas, it kind of disrupts Phasma's execution of Rose and Finn and little BB-8. And so they're able to battle and make it off the ship and down to Crate as well. So the kind of final battle is fought on the surface of Crate, which is takes place on these salt plains, and the First Order lands a bunch of AT-ATs and other heavy-duty AT-ATs. I forget what exactly they're called, ATM-6s or something like that. And they bring out this big batter cannon ram thing that's going to blow the doors off. So the Resistance has to mount this desperate resistance against this attack, and they're in tough for it. But at the last minute, Rey returns and kind of goes to the back door to try and get everybody out, and also Luke Skywalker shows up and engages Kylo Ren, but it's just a distraction because he's force projecting himself from back on Achto where he really is, and that buys them enough time for all the Resistance people to get out the back door onto the Millennium Falcon and get the hell out of there. So that's kind of how things all end off there, setting up for the last of this latest trilogy, which is The Rise of Skywalker, which I have talked about the movie on here, but I'm still going to read that book when I get my hands on it, because it will also be some sort of expanded edition with little hints and stuff. So the things I'm talking about, like the little insights and stuff, like it's before the book even begins, there's a little or the story where we know it from the movie begins. We witness Luke having this bit of a dream that's a premonition that things are about to happen. He's been in seclusion on Achto for so long, but he has this dream and he's like, oh crap, something's going down, right? And then also, like, we learn why Rey left Kylo Ren alive after Kylo killed Snoke, and then him and Rey together fought off all of his elite guards, and Kylo was knocked out, and Rey could have killed him, but she didn't. We learn about kind of Poe's past as a child and his kind of relation to the Alliance and what made him want to become a rebel hero sort of thing. And then we also learned from Leia, kind of, she reflects on being a Jedi and her powers and stuff like that, as well as when they go down to Crate, it was actually in the running for becoming a rebel base after Yavin, I believe. It wasn't, obviously they went to Echo Base on Hoth, but so there's a bit of history on this secret base on Crate from back in the Alliance days that they give a bit of insight on, and a bunch of other stuff too. But it's just kind of interesting to hear some of the little extras that you don't quite get in the movie, right? So great book, great story, great movies. It's Star Wars. Next up, this book I just finished yesterday, I believe. It is the second book in the Enchanted Emporium series, and it is called Compass of Dreams. This one I had to order on eBay. The other three in the series I got at Dollarama for $4 each, and then this one I had to order on eBay for $20, and it's so used. Like, it used to be a library book. See, they had the B up here, this back here, and then there was a big label on here with tape all over it. So I got it off, and I got a little bit of scratching here, and you can tell that some of the stuff ripped off, but I just wanted to get the cover at least kind of uncovered, because I hate it when there's all this shit on here. But it was the only copy I could find, really. Like, it was crazy how this book just almost doesn't exist for some reason. But anyways, in the book, Finley McPhee has not seen his little love interest, the quirky and mysterious and magical A.B. Lily. And he, making matters worse, he hasn't seen this girl for a week, and he also finds out that he gets fired from being the town mailman that he's been serving for the past month or so, due to the injury of the guy who normally does it. So he's bummed out about that, but he goes to visit the Reverend, and the Reverend informs him of his next post, and Finley's now going to be working for a guy named Mr. Everett, who runs a tourist shop, and he wants to get people into the Applecross to do some surfing. So basically Finley's new job is to go to all the beaches around Applecross and perform all of these different measurements and tasks to kind of rate the beaches in terms of, you know, surfing and stuff like that. So pretty good gig. He can take his dog Patches with him and be outside like he likes, and you know, didn't turn out so bad. However, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. Sheep are starting to disappear mysteriously from the herds. Mr. Lilly, who's even more mysterious than AB, is off on some weird quest that he gets Finley involved in. And then also when Finley's at the Emporium and meets up with AB again eventually, she's welcoming a client to the store named Adele Babel, and Finley does not take a liking to her. There's something strange about her, and she's very, very interested in the big book of magical objects, which is basically forbidden. It's to be sold. Like, it's not for sale. It's part of the Emporium, and protecting it is a big job, part of the job the Lilly family perform while taking care of the Enchanted Emporium. So there is dark tidings going on, and they only seem to worsen over time. More sheep disappear, more craziness. One of the town's beloved old ladies dies. So one night when Finley's up in his bedroom, he can't sleep, and he gets up, he looks out his window, and there's some strange dude spying on him from down below at the edge of the forest. So Finley goes out to confront this guy, but his father notices what's going on and rushes out with a gun to protect Finley, and this mysterious stranger escapes into the woods in the meantime. So when Finley relates this tale to AB the next day, though, and kind of tells her what this guy looked like, what he was doing, that sort of thing, they start doing research, and they find out that this guy's name is probably Green Jack. And when he shows up somewhere, he shows up for 21 days, and each week he kills one person in this kind of game of chance that he likes to play with people in this fashion, and nobody has ever beaten him before. So the old woman was his first victim, but he's obviously got 2 more to go. And does he have interest in Finley, since he was at his house staring up in his bedroom window? So they do more research, and they find that if they can find a magical item called the Sherwood Compass in the Green Jack and the Green Men, the Sherwood Compass, it all relates back to Sherwood Forest and Robin Hood and that sort of thing. So there's a bit of tie-in there. But they find out that if they can locate this compass, it will lead them directly to Green Jack's location, and they can find a way to deal with this situation. So they go on this quest to find it. They find out Green Jack's location, and they find all the sheep there. But before they can go inform people and stuff, kind of all the events kind of unravel, and they learn who the true enemy is, who Green Jack is kind of working for, and what their motivations are and stuff like that. And in the process, Finley is almost turned into a tree. That's how it all kind of ends, but is saved at the last minute by some sort of serum or magical formula that helps him get out of it. So I really like this author. It's very creative. It's got like an old school vibe to it or something. That's what I noticed about the series that I read before this one of his, a couple of years ago, or actually more than that now. But it's got a very distinct vibe to it. It's I kind of want to say old-fashioned, but not. Like, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it really brings the story to life in its own unique kind of way compared to a lot of other books where, some series have a very distinct feel and vibe, whereas other series are a little more, not generic, but they could be written by any one of a number of other authors, you know what I mean, sort of thing. So, but his are very distinct stories, and I really like that about them. And they go by super fast too. That book, I literally finished it in like 2 or 3 days. Like, I just flew through it, and it's all very fast paced too, which I like. So, great story. 2 more to go. Can't wait to see how it all ends up. Next up, another of the PS4 games that my cousin loaned me a long time ago now, and I haven't been able to give them back because obviously COVID. And although it's starting to lighten up, I don't know when we're going to see them again, and probably not Christmas because you can't have large gatherings. But at some point, I will give them back. But this one is called. It's another Telltale Games production, and it is called Batman: The Enemy Within. So, this game immediately follows, if you remember from a few videos ago, I played the regular Batman Telltale Games game, and it takes place before this one. And if you play both of them in a row, like when you start this one, it says, do you want to import all your choices that you made in the first game into this story? So it kind of builds on that sort of thing. So, and I said yes, of course. So when they reference past events in this game, it all relates back to your choices in that first game, which I thought was pretty cool. So, but in this game, so after the first game, all the events where, Oswald Cobblepot came back to Gotham and tried to dick Bruce Wayne out of the Wayne Enterprises company. Vicky Vale started up the Children of Arkham and wanted to unleash all sorts of chaos all over Gotham, but Bruce / Batman battled through all that and dispatched all those bad guys, and everything was kind of tied up at the end of that game. So in The Enemy Within, we're kind of starting fresh, and the first person on the scene is the Riddler, who is more of a veteran bad guy now. He's older, and he's back on the scene, and the game starts up with Bruce having to kind of solve a riddle from the Riddler, and eventually the Riddler is killed, and some people he was working with are very upset about it. So we see Bane come into the fray, we see Harley Quinn come into the fray, and of course we see John Doe, soon to be the Joker, also come into the fray. So those three are kind of working together and are pissed off about Riddler, and making it even worse, Amanda Waller from the agency, who we all know assembled the Suicide Squad and all that stuff, comes into Gotham and steps all over Commissioner Gordon's authority and jurisdiction and all that nonsense, and she knows Batman's alter ego. She knows who he is, and she kind of threatens that if you don't want to play ball and work with me, I won't tell everybody who you are, sort of thing. So, so the rest of the game, you're kind of working. It's funny, you got all these different people pulling at you in different directions. You got Jim Gordon, who eventually gets kind of let go by the police force because of Waller. So you got him kind of talking in your ear and doing stuff. Then you got to play ball with Waller. And then at the same time, you kind of got to deal with John Doe, who is part of the enemy camp, but also not really. He's kind of your friend, so you got to try and play him against everything. And it's all a very intriguing kind of interwinding storyline that sees kind of events all wrapped up, but in the process, out of the ashes of John Doe springs the Joker, and it's a pretty cool birthing process to see this enemy come to life in this game, because he's super hilarious. A very good game, very fun. The Telltale games, you don't do much in them. Like, they're kind of boring in terms of gameplay, but I gotta say, they do a really good job with the storylines. They keep you hooked on, what's coming next and where's this going, and oh my god, that's a great idea, right? Like, it's just, they're really well done. Last up, we finished our final Skylanders game called Skylanders Imaginators. This is the 6th game in the Skylanders series, and for now, the final one. Whether they're going to do more, I don't know, but I hope so, because we got a lot of figures and we love playing these games. But in Imaginators, they again flash back to the past, and back in the day, the ancients used to use something called mind magic to create things and shape the world. But one of them, a guy named Brain, he's some sort of brain-looking creature, kind of turned evil and wanted to use the mind magic to like brainwash Skylands and take over and that sort of thing. So they caught him, sealed him away, and stopped using mind magic, sealed that away as well, and put that away. So eventually, in modern times, Chaos wants to access this mind magic and use it himself to create an army of Doomlanders to take on the Skylanders. And he does so, but he's not very successful. So then he feels like, well, let's break out that little brain guy and get him on our side too, and that'll put us over the edge against the Skylanders. And he does that too, and then that's kind of what you got to do. You got to battle through the game in the different levels in an effort to take down Chaos in this little brain creature and save the day. So save Skylands once more. This was probably my least favorite of the Skylanders games. There's usually certain things you can't access in each Skylander game if you don't have the toy of a certain character or whatever. But a lot of times it's just a certain area within a level that you can't get to. But this one, there was just so many additional levels that you couldn't access at all. You couldn't even get into them, that it felt like we played maybe a half of the total game, maybe something like that. So it just felt that, it was kind of like, it wasn't as a full, immersive, satisfying experience as most of the other Skylanders games were. So I felt kind of ripped off by that, but it was still fun and a great story and a great, well executed game and a lot of fun. But I didn't like that kind of aspect to it. So let's hope they do more, because they are a lot of fun, like I said. But let's hope they do get going back towards more of the golden age of Skylanders. My favorite kind of sequence in Skylanders, I really like Swap Force and Trap Team. I like the little gadgets and the little the trap of trapping the enemies and using them for allies, and then Swap Force, splitting characters apart and creating different ones. Like, I like those little kind of unique differences between games that really put a different spin on it and make it kind of unique to each game. So Whereas Imaginators was just kind of, you could create your own Skylander, which James did because he likes doing that stuff, but that's not really my bag. And like I said, there was just too many levels we couldn't access. I just felt like this game, we needed more out of it, sort of thing. But anyways, still worth the play. And I mean, we got the starter pack with all the figures in the game for like, I don't know, $19.99 or something. So it was a really good deal. So yeah, so definitely worth the play. But that is all for now. Those are the 5/6 kind of things that I've been up to lately. But there's obviously a lot more in the works right now. It's just a matter of how fast can I finish all of the things I'm working on. But no doubt I will be back once I do.